I started to see white. The white turned into shards of rainbows, what I would call light consciousness or God consciousness. I could see my grandfather, my granduncle, grandaunt, friend, and I thought, this is amazing. I decided to walk into the room, but there was like a double door across me. And as I went to go through the door, immediately to my left, this being when she stood up was probably about 9 feet tall, very tall, pale bluish skin, eyes I can only describe. Wow, they were like faceted jewels. And when you looked into them, you could just see the universe. And she looked at me and she said, "Darling, you're not expected yet."
My guest today is Catherine O'Loughlin, who had a near-death experience as a result of being stung by bees. I've never talked to somebody who died this way, and it's a fascinating story. So, Kate, welcome all the way from one of my favorite countries, Ireland. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Laurie.
So, you had a near-death experience, and I know that this changes everything for people. And I would love for you to just share yours in whatever way makes sense for us to hear it.
Thanks. It was 13 years ago. I was a beekeeper and I loved my bees, love my bees. And it was very early one morning. It was kind of stormy out, and I, at the time, was married, and it wasn't a very happy relationship. But I decided to go check on the bees. My partner and I wanted to check on the bees, so we went up. And they were very agitated. I wasn't quite sure what was going on. It wasn't their normal behavior. So they started to try and get underneath my suit in through a gap underneath the top. So I did the usual. I walked into the next field, tried to remain calm, took a deep breath, but I could feel my lips swelling and I knew my eye was closing, and I thought, oh, this isn't good. I'm going to have to go back to the hive and shut the hive down and see what's going on here. And as I was shutting it down, I could feel my heart hammering a little, and I thought, oh, I really don't feel well. So I started to walk back towards the house. Now my partner was behind me, and as I was walking to the house, I said, you know what, I think I'll call my friend. He's a homeopathist. He goes, no, I think you need to go somewhere else. What I didn't realize is he could see my skin. It looked like I had Rice Krispies underneath the skin. It was extreme shock. All the venom was trying to push itself out. It was almost like I had scales. It's a very unusual. I'm glad I didn't see it. I don't think I would have remained as calm. We got down to the house. I wasn't feeling very well at all. And I thought, I think I'll just lie down and I'll try and remain calm. And that felt awful. I could actually feel my lungs filling. So I sat up again and I thought, all right, just try and take your mind out of it. Calm down, calm down. So he grabbed the keys. We got into the car and I was watching my heart physically knock around in my chest. And I thought, okay, this isn't good. This really isn't good. And the emergency doctor was 4 miles away. We just got to the door and I was trying all the mind games I could to try and take my mind out of everything that was going on so that I could be a bit more coherent. Very difficult to do when you're having a heart attack. I didn't realize that's what was happening. But I knew something was happening because I started to see white. And I thought, okay, I think that's all the organs trying to push blood down into the heart now. I'm losing consciousness. I knew I could start to see white. And I thought, okay, and I went to open the door and that was it. I have no recollection immediately what happened after that. But what happened for me is the white turned into shards of rainbows, what I would call light consciousness or God consciousness or whatever your deity is. Universal consciousness. And I thought, oh God, that's absolutely beautiful. Look at all these sparks of light, these sparks of rainbow. I started to feel a sense of calm. And I thought, I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid. I thought, okay, this is it. This is it. What's going to happen? To be honest, I was kind of excited. It was like being on an adventure, and I didn't know where it was going to take me. So I just thought, go with it. I wasn't going to try and fight it. I thought, well, this is probably it. So go with it. The lights changed and they became even more bright. And as they did, that sense of peace just permeated my whole being, my whole energy. Everything was just peace and light and love and no fear. And just, I felt as if I was encased in the most beautiful ball of love you can ever imagine. So peaceful, just amazing. And the white around me started, as I looked and I peered, I could see maybe furniture, and then faces started to appear. And I thought, what's going on here? And then I heard the chink of what I can only describe as crystal glasses. And I thought, oh, are they having a party for me? Because I suddenly thought, are we having champagne? And I thought, okay. And then I started to see my relatives. It was like they were appearing before me. And I had surprised them. They weren't waiting for me, but they started to arrive. I could see my grandfather, my granduncle, a grandaunt, a friend. And I thought, this is amazing. And the feeling that really permeated more importantly to me at the time was that I felt I was doing something right, or that I had been, all was okay. There was nothing wrong. I was okay. And that really was quite strong. And I thought, oh, this is good. What a great way to start, I decided to walk into the room, but there was like a double door. There was a door I was standing in, and then there was a door across from me, maybe 8 feet. And as I went to go through the door, immediately to my left, I noticed a little kind of like an anteroom. That's the only way I can describe it. A little room to the left, like a chaise lounge area, right? And this being seemed to be lying asleep, but suddenly woke up, and we were communicating through telepathy. And I felt the presence was female. It was almost androgynous, but it felt female energy. And this being, when she stood up, was probably about 9 feet tall, very tall, pale bluish skin, eyes I can only describe. Wow, they were like faceted jewels. And when you looked into them, you could just see the universe. You could just see the universe. And it was just amazing to gaze upon this beauty, and the glow. And she looked at me and she said, darling, you're not expected yet. And I went, oh, okay. And I really just gave in. I just went, that's okay. And then I started my journey back. So I know I stopped the process. I wasn't curious about going off and looking at this, that, and the other. I've truly always accepted the process as another step in our lives. It's not the end. So I was actually looking forward to the adventure. But when I discovered I wasn't actually ready and that I needed to go back, I immediately went, okay. And with that, everything disappeared. And I started to come back into consciousness. First of all, because of a very practical thing. When you die, you tend to wet yourself. So I wet myself, and I was thinking, oh, that's nice and warm and cuddly. What's that? And I went, did I wet myself? And I knew I was waking up then. And then I woke up, and 5 people were staring at me. My partner, a doctor, an assistant, and someone else. I think the man who carried me in. They were very white-faced. I really didn't know what had happened. all I know is it came back, and then I had two very clear thoughts. One, I would say my earthly thought was, you can't take it with you. That expression, you can't take it with you. All the possessions or everything I have are irrelevant. They're not important. And I thought, okay, but the vision I had that I would call my heavenly thought when I came back was, all that's important in life and all you need to remember is to be happy in your heart. That's it. When you're happy in your heart, it's like a pebble dropping in the pond. The ripples they move out and then they come back. And I completely understood what that meant. It really helped me to clarify my own thoughts about life as well too, that this joy that's inside you is a vibration and it affects everybody and everything around you. So all of that was processing in as I was coming round. The worst part of the experience was actually, because it was such a panic, and it was, this is a rural country area. This doctor was nearly retired. He'd never had to do this before. He panicked and gave the first adrenaline into my heart where I was having a heart attack. So, and then he realized it was muscle. So now I had 3 shots of adrenaline, and Periton, antihistamine. But they forgot to put a heat blanket on me. So I had been unconscious for nearly 3 minutes. And what happened then is my blood temperature had dropped and I started to go into, I can't think of the term now, I'm going blank. Exposure, when you have exposure and you've been left outside and you go into that shock.
Hypothermia?
Hypothermia, thank you very much. So I went into hypothermic shock after that, which was actually far more frightening because you have no control over your body whatsoever. Immediately threw heat blankets on me. I said to him, what was my blood pressure? And he went, and I said, well, what was my pulse? No, okay. When I tell people the story, I always say your brain produces DMT. I said it's irrelevant whether you believe I saw something or not, because what happened and the experience is important. That the calm and the peace that comes with it is the message. That's it. It's really not important whether it happened here or outside of that. My personal belief is there's much more to life than what we are shown. And it's another process. And we go back to review ourselves. I didn't get to the review because I didn't get so far. I was actually stopped and said, you're not ready. As a practice, I tend to do my own review in life. I practice forgiveness. I'm an empath naturally. I try to see the good in everything naturally without trying. I really want to close doors of all the things that, maybe I've hurt people or people have hurt me, and to let go. And in my day-to-day living, I want to have my review now so that when I move on, I'm on to the next chapter of whatever happens. And that's been important for me to understand that life review is something that we can actually practice in our day-to-day thoughts and how we feel about each other and how we interact with each other and how we maybe hold things, or we don't understand what forgiveness is, but to explore those and to understand how important everybody is on this planet for whatever reason they're here. So that was my experience.
Wow. Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that. You said that there's DMT produced in your brain, and DMT is naturally produced in the pineal gland in the brain. It's an endogenous chemical, and Dr. Rick Strassman studied this clinically for about 30 years. And I was going to ask you to explain to people how you think your experience differs from something that somebody would call a dream or a hallucination.
Well, I suppose when your senses are alert, and the sense of peace is nothing like you will ever experience. It's nothing that on this earth is even remote to it. I mean, I live in a beautiful countryside area, and the peace here is fantastic, but it's very earth. It's alive in its own energy. This is like being held in feathers and being held in love. It's beyond the love we can even begin to explain. No fear, no worry, no real, I wouldn't say emotions, but no drama. Just peace in and out. It feels as if it permeates every cell in your body, and it's vibrating with this lovely, beautiful, beautiful peace. And I watch NDEs, and people say, oh, they didn't want to come back because it was just amazing. I get it, because it's amazing. It's pure love. It's pure love. And if we got anywhere near that in the earth, that would be pretty amazing, because really, I could not give it anything close to something on this earth.
So it's not even something like, it's so beyond our human experience that it's not even something you could have imagined or conceived of.
No, none whatsoever. It permeates you and lifts you. So I mean, I didn't expect it, but it happened, and you just feel every one of your whole system just just relax. Like I said, in pure love, warmth, adoration, you're loved through and through. And yeah, it comes from within and on the inside and out. It's like you're part of the cosmos. That's very, very cosmic, isn't it?
I love
Very
it. No, it's
woo-woo.
beautiful.
But it is. It's like being part of the cosmos, and you're very, very, very happy to be there. More so than any alcohol or stimulant or anything will ever bring you to it. It's beyond a joy. It's
So what
beyond a
about
joy.
the visuals? Because you started out with the rainbow shards and you
Yeah.
experienced the being who had
Mm,
the diamond, almost luminescent eyes that held the universe. So how
mm.
were the visuals different than the visuals that we experience in the human body?
Well, I don't know how many 9-foot blue people you meet, but that's not common
I'm
in my
laughing
world.
at you. That's funny.
Do you know what I mean? It's like, it was very, very cosmic as well. It's like, what's going on? But I didn't even feel like what's going on. It was more, oh, hello. So it's like I knew them and they knew me, and we were talking without opening our mouths. It was total telepathy. It was all coming from my mind, and we were really communicating that way. Um, there was a glow about them. There's nothing earthly about any of that. I, in truth, have seen blue light. I know blue light exists, and I know that blue beings have a purpose here, but I'd never, I learned about that afterwards, to be honest, not before. But that was my experience. It was just luminous, bluey, pale blue. I mean, you look in the universe in the eyes, and you can just see galaxies and stars and just all of life. Now, again, unless you're taking lots of drugs, I'm not sure how you're going to see that on the earth. And even then, I don't think you're going to have the same beautiful, peaceful, calm experience. Just felt very, 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 very different, but familiar. That's, like I said, like we knew each other. They felt like they were a guide or somebody who was, maybe looking out for me, but we were connected. And that I feel very strongly about. But quite tall, and definitely not of this world. Definitely not of this world. Was wearing something what I would call like a toga, just something thrown over them. Nothing too elaborate, nothing too fancy. It was more their presence and the glow from them and the warmth. Yeah. So again, couldn't even begin to compare this to anything on this earth.
And have you connected with that being since you've been back in your Kate human experience?
Yes, I have. And I had a wonderful experience where, as I said, it was an unhappy marriage. Now, after this, I changed everything. Obviously, I left my marriage and I moved on, and I started doing the things I really wanted to do. I found that was really important to do after my experience, to just really be happy in myself. So I've forgotten the train of thought now, Laurie. You're going to have to bring me back.
Oh, that's okay. We were asking,
Tired head.
no,
This is
it's
my
perfect. We were
timer.
asking about the being and had you had
Mm.
experiences post
Yes.
NDE from your human perspective with that being?
Well, I at the time lived in a very rural area again, and there was a small country road going past the house, but that was to my in-laws, nobody else. And the reason I tell you this, I remember lying in bed, and I was probably at my lowest point in my marriage, and thought, I really need some sort of guidance and help. Will you please show yourself to me? And I said it was such intention and such feeling. It came from within. I really needed help then. And outside the window, which had curtains on it, I didn't even get out of the bed. I was transfixed because a small, tiny dot of blue light started, and it grew, to about 9 or 10 feet, and just stayed outside the window. And somebody, oh, it was a car. I was like, no, it wasn't a car. Even if the car had turned around on the road and faced the window, it wouldn't be 9 feet high and blue like an orb, more elongated. And I could feel it there, and I just cried and cried and cried. And I said, thank you so much. Thank you so much for your support. I'm glad you did that for me. I needed that. I needed to feel their presence and to see them in that way. I didn't go to the window and look. I didn't need to. I knew they were there. And after a while, I started falling asleep, and they still remained. So I remember saying half asleep, thank you very much. You can go now. As if it was just like that. And eventually it just kind of dwindled down and then disappeared. But at least 10 minutes there. At least 10 minutes while I cried and I purged and I released. And again, I felt supported in a way I can't explain. Definitely not the same beautiful peacefulness as death, but loved in a very nice way. And I thought, okay, that's interesting. I didn't know what to expect after that. I just accepted it as normal. For some people, maybe they wouldn't, but for me, I did. So,
And you had communication when you were on the other side with that being, and you described it as telepathic.
Mm.
So I think when people hear that word, they often think you say, "Hi, how are you?" And you hear in your mind, "Hi, how are you?" But that's not really what telepathic communication is. So will you explain to people who are watching how it worked, what it felt like, what it was for you?
It's incredibly natural. I've had the experience with dolphins, but I can talk to dolphins with my mind, and I've demonstrated it in real time, and they answer back. And they're very telepathic. I didn't realize that until I got to swim with a wild one. And I got into the water and I thought, very clear. I made it very clear. I said, I wish you'd come to me. And she went on her belly, and I rubbed her belly. And I said, thank you. This is all in my mind. I never opened my mouth. And she went, great. Went down, jumped up, took off. I think everybody has the gift of understanding telepathy if they allow their minds to open in that respect. So when I met this being, I didn't open my mouth. It was like there was none of that. It was through the eyes we were communicating, and through the heart we were communicating. And the sound was generating basically from our chakras to each other in a language that translates as my native language, English, in my ear. So it's like hearing them, but not hearing a voice. It's more like feeling. The energy resonates, I understand the words, and I send the energy back, and they understand my words. So the words and the energy are connected. That's the best way I could describe it. And they don't say, "Hey, how's it going?" and go, "Oh yeah, I'm doing well." It's like you and me talking now. I say something, you say something, but we're not opening our mouth. We're just telling each other through the eyes and our hearts.
But
And
so you're feeling the emotion too. So you can
yeah,
guess the emotion that I'm having. If we're having a conversation, you could guess my emotion, but you wouldn't know for sure. But in those interactions, you know precisely the state of that being, correct?
yes, everything in your mind is pretty much there. So what you're thinking is very clear. So if you're thinking something different, that will be picked up on as well too. So yeah, everything's there. There's nothing to hide from. It really is about being open. I've had that experience in ayahuasca as well too with the practitioner. The practitioner was reading my mind and I was reading his, and he knew my thought and he gave me a look. And I thought, oh my God, he could read my mind. All right, fair enough. That experience was another one that kind of made me think, wow, be careful of your thoughts because they are listened to. They really are listened to.
I think that's such a good message. We've talked a lot on this show about telepathy and the telepathy tapes. I'm glad that you said be careful in your thoughts because I call this the 4 minute mile of spirituality, meaning that once one person is shown to have the ability to do it, then others will follow. It's just a matter of time. And so you're a living example that this is already evolving, that this is already happening. So what do you
It is.
do? I will get back. I have more questions about your NDE, but I'm just
Mm.
curious while we're right here. What do you do, Kate, to protect your thoughts or to help you keep your thoughts pure in a way that you would not be afraid to communicate with somebody telepathically? Is this your book? Oh, you
My
can
book,
heal
yeah.
your life with Louise Hay.
So I have been practicing a long time about being kind in my thoughts to myself and others.
What would you say to somebody who's like, "Oh boy, I better start reeling this in." Where do you start? Like what's a starting point that somebody could practice?
Something Louise said once was, so you have a thought and say, it's, I don't know, I don't like that person, or I don't like what they did. And you're like, you stop yourself and you'd say, thank you for that thought. It has served its purpose, but it no longer serves me. And I didn't realize how negative actually I was at that time. And that I had taken my true happy self and gone off on a path, a tangent, and started developing these really negative thoughts. And I just kept doing that. And then I realized I was thinking, I am judging people. I am not, I'm judging myself. It's all mirror. It's all coming back to. So practice. And I swear for a few months, I thought I'd go mad doing that. As I practiced, there was less and less thoughts happening. And then I realized, it's actually easier to be happy and to be tolerant and to understand yourself than to remain in all this negativity. It's a daily practice. So now I would say the pendulum has swung quite the other way. I'm much more stable in my thoughts and happy in my thoughts. And even if I do have a thought and I think, is that going to serve me? Do I really need to do that? No, I don't. Thank you very much. Let it go.
You know what I love so much about what you shared? I think it's really easy for us to be hard and critical of ourselves.
Oh, yeah.
And I think a lot of people who would start a practice without hearing what you said would probably get upset with themselves. But in your practice, you are actually thanking the thought first.
Yeah.
And you mentioned this earlier that gratitude is something that you practice too. So
Mm.
I love that because it really marries those two things together.
Mm. Mm. Was it wisdom and compassion are the two that
Yeah.
when you hold together are the best things you can ever have. So
Yeah.
I look at it like that. Yeah. So may I be wise and may I be full of compassion, and let's see where we go from there.
And so beautiful. Okay, I want to go back to the NDE because you also had an experience that I think people are very, very curious about. They very much hope to have when they cross over and have their near their death experience, and that is that you saw your relatives.
Mm.
So, will you go into some detail for us
Mm.
about how they were, who you saw, how you felt if you had any communication with them? Because I know when people have had a loss, it's a big way that they find videos like this because they're trying to decide, are my loved
Yeah.
ones still around? Have they disappeared? Are they gone forever? Do they still love me?
Oh yeah.
Do they know what's going on in my life? So will you
Oh yeah.
share as much detail as you can remember about your experience with your relatives?
Okay. They started to appear like out of the mist. I started to see faces. And like I said, I could hear there was probably champagne being poured. I could hear the chink of glasses. I'm going to add to that that whatever your foundation for your belief often is the thing that will bring you into your experience. With that in mind, I thought maybe a party and drinking champagne, I'm going to have to go back and do more work. Spiritually, that's not probably the way I want to be brought in. There are other ways I need to do more work. Um, you know, when my grandmother died, I know she saw the Virgin Mary, who was very important to her. I know that. The look of pure bliss on her face really said that. Um, but for me, the faces started to appear, and I realized it was a celebration. It was like there was a gathering and they were going to have a big party for me. And the first face I saw was my grandfather. And I could see him there and he was smiling. Now, he didn't speak to me. He was just so happy to see me. I could feel he was like, well done, fair play to you. He was just full of praise. Um, and then I started seeing my granduncle and my elderly relatives. Their faces would appear, big smile in their faces, like, oh, she's here, And I thought, oh, is this a party? That's why I was all excited. Is this a party? Oh my God. And then I started seeing one or two friends who had passed away early. And I knew they would be there. I just instinctively knew in my heart they would turn up, and they were just so ecstatic to see me. They're like, wait till we get talking. All of this was going on, and everybody was expecting me to come in. So I didn't really start to talk to them because, like I said, as I got to the door to walk in, that's when this being, I call her Halima, that's when she appeared and stopped me from passing through onto the rest of the people. She didn't stop me. I guess there was an option, but the way she said it to me, I understood that I wasn't ready. So, but I mean, people who pass on, wow, they're definitely waiting for you. I like what Edgar Casey says about how basically, we rewrite our stories before we come here. And then when we meet and then we pass on, it's kind of like going backstage after doing an act on stage. And we're all meeting our friends. Oh, look what you did to me. Oh my God, I did. And I thought, oh, I really like that. And I kind of, that's kind of how I believe and see it. It's like the family are brought in to make you feel comfortable for the experience. Not everybody's going to be like me, excited about it and looking forward to it. There's probably a lot more going on with other people's experiences I've seen. They're worried about family, or there's other thoughts, and there's fear sometimes, but they're definitely there to help you, and they're there to to hold your hand and say, you know what, you're here now. We're all here. And yeah, it's a gathering. It's a gathering. Yeah,
So
it's a gathering.
you mentioned that they were smiling. Every one of them
Yeah.
connected with you. They were happy. They were happy to see you. Did they look
Mm.
the same way that you saw them last? So if your grandfather was old He still looked old, the gray hair, the wrinkles, or
Yeah,
did they look a younger version of themselves?
they looked exactly like they had when they left, but they had a lovely glow to their skin. I didn't see wrinkles or anything. It was features. Um, I hadn't got to that stage. Obviously, I believe that the longer you spend there, you're going to see people, especially the ones closest to you, in various states. It's also how you project it yourself in your mind. You know, um, the best way I could describe it is when my father passed away suddenly. Um, my mother and him had been together 60 years since they were teenagers, and my mother was very distraught about him. And I have a friend who is a shaman, and we decided to sit down and do some work because I felt my father was stuck in forgiveness. Because I wasn't feeling a communication and I wasn't feeling a vibration. So I thought, let's do that. So we went to a space, we went through a process, and I sat with him and I told him, you know where you are. And I explained to him about forgiveness and about the ability to do whatever you want now is there. And with that, he left and I felt good. And my mother phoned me up the next day to tell me she had a dream about my father. And she said he came into the flower shop, a place that she loved working, and she was making a bouquet of flowers for another grandmother. And my father came in and he said to my mother, as if he was going to the shop, I'm going off in the space shuttle. I'll be gone a couple of days and then I'll be back. And she said, oh my God, you'll love that. And for me, I knew, and I said it to her, Mum, he's realized now he has the freedom of spirit and he can see and do whatever he wants. Whatever he wants. And she really took that on board. I was delighted because, sometimes your theories can be a bit for some people, but she really got that. And you know what? That angst, that sadness, that overwhelming grief she was feeling started to slow down. And she became more accepting. And she felt happier knowing he was doing something that he loved. So like that, I'm sure next time, when I get to that stage, I'm going to see things differently. Yeah. I can't hear you now.
Oh, sorry. So
That's
they
okay.
had they had human bodies, right?
Yeah.
Did you ever look down to see what your body looked like?
No.
Okay.
Never even occurred to me. I was so busy drinking in. Like I said, the people were materializing, so their bodies started to form in front of me. I didn't even think to look down at myself.
And then the last thing I want to ask you about your NDE is the first thing that happened, the shards of the rainbow that
Yeah.
felt like unity consciousness. It's
Mm.
interesting. I think it used to be way more common a long time ago that people would have tunnel experiences. I feel like that's not as common anymore. And people are either just in their body or they're somewhere else. What
Mm.
do you think the shards of rainbow were representing?
To me, it's God consciousness.
So can you
It's this,
explain what you understand God consciousness to be?
sure. We are all one. We are all united together. We are all one consciousness. And that one consciousness united, which surrounds us, is what I would call God consciousness. So when we see, we think of the rainbow as all the elements of light. It's all the light together to make white. There's several teachings out there how the universe started with a spark and it was shards of light. And then those little shards of light became souls or spirit, which have reincarnated or have transmuted through time and space and reality. So for me to see the shards of light felt I was part of this consciousness and reality. This I have learned since as well too. This is before that I had a good idea, but now I feel much more secure in my knowledge in that respect that we the shards of light were all the spirit energy, almost like welcoming you in. I mean, what's not like to like about prisms? Rainbows are amazing, and it was sparkly. I mean, it was glittery, so it was divine light, divine purity, life in a non-earthly way.
Beautiful. Well,
Describe it.
so you have this experience how many years ago?
13 years ago.
Okay. So 13 years.
Mm.
That's a long time to integrate something.
Yes,
Are your memories of that experience as vivid today as they were when you had them?
absolutely. Yeah, yeah. I mean, in time, everything softens without a doubt, but everything was quite clear. Nothing's changed. Nothing's been added to it. Um, it is what it is for certain. And yeah, it's another one of those daily practices. Now and again, I remind myself, I was lucky to come back, and we need to do something with that now. How do I help others? How do I let people know that spirit is all around you, and it's helped me to try and help others to understand the peace. I think most people are afraid of death because of it's the end. They're going to feel pain. They're going to, there's so many different sad and tragic things that they believe about it, that I just want to reassure them that their loved ones are loved, and they're having a great time, and they're learning something, or they're doing something, and you will all be part of that. So your time on this planet is fantastic. You should cherish every moment. It's very short. It's tiny compared to everything else. So just believe that you're loved, and you will be peace. You will feel peace, and you will feel protected. And
Mm.
that's really the message I'm trying to get to people, especially when people are passing away. That's what we say in Ireland: passing away, as if they're going somewhere, but they are going somewhere. So yeah, it's a way for the people on the planet to kind of come to terms with the death as well too,
Right.
to
Well,
understand.
yeah, I think a lot of people say, I've heard a lot of people say, I'm afraid of death, but I've heard a lot more say, I'm not afraid of death. I'm just afraid of the way I'm going to die. And you did have what should have been a painful death experience. You're getting stung by bees and you're
Mm,
having a heart attack. What pain did you feel?
none.
I think that that's so comforting.
That's it. You see, there was no suffering. It was just like it wasn't happening, like it never happened. I'm just there. And there's you do not feel pain, sadness, any kind of un unhappy experience. It's really just pure love, and
Yeah.
you're not looking at bits hanging off you or stings or anything like that. It's nothing like that. You are whole and complete and loved, and no, you are not in pain. That's all gone. That's all gone.
So comforting.
Mm.
Well, you said that you were empathic. Did you
Mm.
come back with different abilities than you had before you had this near-death experience?
Probably more belief in my own abilities. I've had abilities all my life, as everybody does, um, and probably more belief in myself. It can be a lonely world unless you meet people in the same mind, of which you do find your tribe, and I have. Um, but yes, more confident in myself and more understanding. In fact, probably my mind has expanded even more than it was before. It's open to more probability, more input. Yeah, definitely. It's opened my eyes more. Um, and I really try to be good in my heart for myself, you know,
Hmm.
because myself is how I generate the energy and the beauty for everybody else.
Yeah. I want to ask you one last question,
Mm.
which is that you talked about the life review and you didn't get to that in your near death experience, but you've made it a practice to review your life so that you are unpacking, I'll call it,
Yes.
life review now so that
Yeah.
you don't have to unpack it later. Will you give people some practical advice on how they can start their own practice of mitigating their life review?
Did you ever hear that there's a thing in Europe they call the Swedish death cleaning? Have you heard of that?
No, I have not.
Okay. That is deep cleaning your house as if you're going to die,
Oh, wow. Okay. No, I
which
have
is
not heard that.
a lot of packing, not just unpacking, but a lot of
Right.
packing. It's really getting rid of going down to the brass tacks.
Okay.
And like that, my daily practice is down to the brass tacks. It's like, well, okay, this friend of mine, we were friends, we weren't friends, it went all pear shape. How do I deal with that? Where do I stop and say, okay, be honest, were you kind? Were you, did I support them? Did they support me? And I would contemplate that. And then I might make the effort and contact them and say, hey, how do you feel about this? What's going on? I've actually just gone out of my way to come to terms with everybody I've had any kind of issue with, and myself in that respect too, because I'm involved in it. So obviously I'm not an angel, so I'm responsible for my own part in it. And to be able to say, I forgive myself is probably the hardest thing. Most people is an obstacle that, most people stumble on. Forgiving others as well too, when they think, oh, well, they deserve it. And then I would stop and go, well, this is resentment. Where is it coming from?
Mm.
So it's being deeply introspective and being courageous enough to face up and say, hey, I wasn't good in this situation. I am so sorry it happened that way. And to be able to say to yourself, I forgive you for doing that. Not just like, oh, it's okay, but really it's like, wow, I created this, and let's not do that again. Let's try not to ever do that again. So it's being deeply introspective. It's being responsible for your actions and your voice in a way that's more connected with people than just a day-to-day ignoring what maybe happened in the past and you're not facing, or it's being brave to face up to your own foibles.
It is. It is. Well, I would imagine that there are people watching who maybe have other questions or would like to connect with you. Is there a way that they can do that?
I don't have a website or anything yet. I'm going to have to sort this out. That's part of the transition this year.
Well, I love that you're sharing this, and I super appreciate it. I want to ask you one last question that I love to ask people after they've had experiences like this, which is, Kate, what do you know for sure?
Oh, nothing. I mean, nothing. Life is it's like a hologram. I don't even know if we're really here.
I have to agree with that.
Yeah. The only, I mean, you could say death. That's about it, really. And taxes is the usual, isn't it? But
Yeah,
in reality, probably nothing. We
fair
think we
enough.
know everything, but we know nothing.
Fair enough. Well,
Mm,
Catherine, Kate, you are such a beautiful person. I
thank you.
love what you shared about how you came back and changed these really beautiful aspects of yourself to be so super aware of the ripple effect that you have on the world. And I
Mm,
want to thank you. Thank you so much for
thank you.
wanting to be vulnerable enough to share this, because what you're doing is helping to wake up the collective, and it is so needed right now.
Absolutely. We're really lucky to be able to be in the mindset to do that, and may many others follow in our footsteps. Yeah. The more we can help, the better.
I agree.
Definitely.
And of
Yeah.
course, this show is absolutely nothing without all of you who tune in to watch, to listen, and to share these beautiful experiences with somebody who needs them. But if you still have questions, you can join me for Wake Up Wednesdays live at 5 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Mountain, 7 p.m. Central, and 8 p.m. Eastern. Thank you, everybody, for watching.
Thank you. Bye.
Do you believe that love never dies and you want to hear stories that prove it? Well, hit the subscribe button. You belong here.